Welcome everybody to this week's Dissecting Design. Since I finished Nioh with all the DLC and additional missions, I figured it was time to talk a little bit more in depth about the game, and how it combines action and ARPG design while not necessarily having the best results in the process. But there is a lot to go over with the game, so for the first part we're going to talk about the basics of Nioh's action gameplay and what it means for a new player, and that's what we'll do next. Alright, we're in one of the game's many missions. Now in terms of the difficulty, it's going to be a little bit weird because I'm using a higher level character, and we'll talk more about that in a later part. But the easiest way to describe Nioh would be a combination of Ninja Gaiden with a little bit of Bloodborne or Dark Souls, and of course an ARPG. Now my character right here, hello buddy, just rip these guys apart, there we go. And if you look in the upper left hand corner, you'll see my health as well as my key bar. The key is the green, and it's Nioh's version of stamina. Without stamina, you will not be able to attack or block. As you can see, that guy was trying to recharge his. To the left, you'll see my Guardian Spirit, which is the game's version of kind of like your... I'm trying to remember the name. Oh, I know, like Devil Trigger from Devil May Cry, Witch Time from Bayonetta, and so on. Now, as you can see, combat in Nioh is fast-paced. It is very easy for things to spiral out of control. Oh, hello. And see both of you there. You're out. Now, each weapon in Nioh, I'm using Tonfas, but there are, I think, 6 or 7, I can't remember off the top of my head, has its own different skill tree and upgrades you can get. Picking up some of the game's items as well. Now, a major part of what kind of differentiates Nioh from other action games are the stances. If you look in the bottom right, you'll see I have a little like stance marker. Right now I'm in middle stance, which is kind of the average one, but we can also go into light stance for quick attacks, and high stance for your heavy, all-consuming attacks. And there's definitely strategy knowing what stance to use at any given point. Like, I will switch over to my heavy stance. And basically we're going to be doing massive damage, but it really empties your key bar. Let's see. There's also gestures. Gotta make sure this chest isn't trapped. And take note of the gear that's popping up on the inventory in the left, as well as the color. Here's our first demon or yokai based enemy. But of course this area is trapped. The levels in the base game of Nioh are also hard-coded. There is an advanced quote-unquote endless mode, but we'll talk a little bit about that when we get to the advanced difficulty section of our talk. Very quickly, here is the... there you go. Here's our various skill trees for each of the game's weapons. We gain points based on leveling up our stats, as well as finding consumable items. And they'll do everything from giving us new items to use, helping us with damage, and all other options there. So let me climb back up here. And I'll probably be using our living weapon in a few minutes. Can I kick this down? No. So, we have no choice but to fight this guy. When an enemy has no key left, they get staggered. Now what he just did there was put down a yokai field. And the only way to get rid of those is by timing the R1 push to recover our key with a pulse. And here's another one. Now this guy's going to be suitably more dangerous. He's a ninja. Also, heavy enemies do not get staggered out of their attacks. They basically have hyper armor. So we're going to keep heading down here. Oh, hello. Get out of there, you. We'll see what treasures we can find. Oh, look, there's another one. This is, I think, a perfect time for a living weapon. While we're in living weapon form, our weapon takes on the damage property of our spirit. As long as it counts down based on the bar in the upper left, if we can kill enemies, we can regain it and keep it prolonged to some extent. Now, for this level that I picked, there are secret doors all around. And part of the challenge is finding the right way. There we go. Use some healing. Destroy that. And because the levels are hard-coded, they are similar to the Dark Souls games by having fixed shortcuts that we can open up that will remain available even if we die. Someone come over here. Whenever you go back to a shrine, all normal enemies do respawn. The enemies that are in those fields that you saw a few minutes ago, they do not respawn after they are killed. But here are the various guardian spirits, what they do, as well as bonuses they provide. That little scroll I'm activating is basically an extra life ability. And just to differentiate, I pulled out my Odachi, which is my other weapon. And again, every weapon has its own unique quirks and abilities to it. Now, these here are Reverence. These are like the red phantoms, which get summoned based on characters who, or real players who die playing the game. He's out of key, so I can go in for a extra attack. Also, take note that the items he just dropped are green. That's going to become a major part of our discussion when we talk about item design next. Well, my little rifle here. And hopefully kill the guy, that would help. Go down, buddy. Okay, without key, I'm going to send him up for that. Pick up some treasure. And you notice as we're picking up spirits and killing enemies, my living weapon meter is recharging in the upper left. So we have a few more fights on our way up here. Hello, buddy. Oh. Yeah, there you go. That going. And there is another yokai field. And if we look there, someone's trying to snipe me with a gun. Or not. Also, the map in the upper right is showing enemy positions because of an item that I have that has the modifier weapon sense, or I'm sorry, enemy sense. So what could this guy be? Uh-oh, you again. When they are standing in those fields that they generate, they recover their own key. God. Oh, almost fell right off. There's our shortcut. Or I'm sorry, there's our checkpoint. If you can see my item shortcut in the bottom left, as well as points I can allocate just below that. Whoa. Where did you come from, buddy? Anyway, you're done. As you can see, things look a little kooky in this room, to say the least. Besides our normal damage, there are a variety of modifiers we can add, including poison, fire, paralysis, and more. It basically works by every time you hit the enemy with a elemental or special attack, it fills up a bar that is dependent upon the enemy itself. When the bar fills up, they will be infected by whatever that modifier is. Now, as you can see, we have a bunch of lovely spiders down below. You out. Oh, hello. And most enemies will do their damnedest to get to you. Now, there was a purpose to do that, because now the room is flipped. Let's see what we can find here. I also have this heavy old gun. This is basically our stationary one. We can't really move with it, but it does a stupid amount of damage. Now, we're going to need to drop down, sadly. Yeah, this looks like it's going to be the safest. There's another field. What could you be? Oh, I forgot to mention, your attacks are built on 2 buttons. You have a quick attack with vice square and a heavier attack with triangle. Heavier attacks can knock out Ki better, but they're slower. And if you haven't noticed by now, this is certainly a game built on speed. Ow. Uh-oh. And they just hit me with a special debuff that slows me down. Now, I don't have as many fancy moves for the Odachi, just because I've been leveling up my confidence. So this is my emergency weapon, basically. Alright, we're through. There's a booby trap right there. Careful of that. There should be maybe 1 or 2 more sections, and then we have the boss. Bosses in Nioh are either humanoid or yokai. And that actually plays a big part about the difficulty of the game. This guy's dead. That we'll talk about again later on. Now, one of the reasons why, again, my weapon is doing so much damage is that I am pretty much over level in terms of gear for this part. I'm actually further along in the game's New Game Plus. Right here, we are looking for some secret doors. And hopefully I pick the right one. Hello. Oh. You're out, buddy. Oh. Oh, I'm out of Ki. If you run out of Ki and are attacked, you are left in a very weakened state. Here's a hidden wall, which you have to basically do the right gesture to get them to open up. Come on, buddy. There we go. He like that. And we have a lovely little hot spring. More treasure. And let's get going. should be still more traps around to be careful of. Alright. That. And we are at the boss. That I gotta be careful of, because I could possibly die. Bosses are pattern-based, and it's just about figuring out how to get around their attacks and finding the right moment to jump in. Because I unlocked the shortcut, because I forgot, I'm going to take this the safe way and just power through. Goodbye, Giant Toad. We hardly knew ye. And there we go. But trust me when I say that bosses are a lot harder than what you just saw. Alright. And then after every mission you are given sometimes set or random rewards. Right over there. But with that said, it's time to talk about the other major half of Nioh's game design. That's going to be item customization and how they grow over the course of playing the game, and why it is crucial to have any chance of surviving this title. But we will talk about that in our next part. Alright, welcome back. It's time to talk about one of the major aspects of Nioh's design, balance, and arguably some of the frustration some players have with the game, and that is the gear system. So there's several things to talk about with Nioh's gear. Let's start at the top. Gear in Nioh is broken down by type, then rarity. And as you can see right here, we have a bit of a, I guess, a wide sampling. From absolute common to slightly rarer, rarer still, second rarest, and then the highest, at least in the early parts of the game, divine. And when we talk about difficulty in our next section, we'll discuss a little bit more about divine level gear. But the main things to keep in mind in terms of quality is that the higher the gear rarity is, the more modifiers or special effects are available on it, and you can see that in the middle panel. Modifiers are both random, as in they'll be randomly assigned, as well as set ones. Now if you look on some of the gear as I'm scrolling up and down, you'll notice symbols to the left of the name. Looks like I think that's a hexagon symbol, is it hexagon? Yeah, hexagon, sorry. Geometric shapes are hard to talk about when you're thinking of loot tables. But the little hexagon shape there represents a modifier that is unique to that piece of gear, meaning that it will always be on that specific item. So whenever I get an item of this name, which I'm not going to even try to pronounce, it will always have water as a special effect on there. Another thing you should be noticing, oh actually there's one more. If you look at the one that is a upside down rectangle followed by a right arrow and then another one, that means that modifier can be transferred to another weapon via a process that we'll talk about in a minute. Now if you look on the middle pane again, you'll see the I got talk a little too fast there. Familiarity bar. That basically goes up on how much you're using an item, and it's used for transferring modifiers as well as providing bonuses to the special effects. So right now, if we go to the item I'm using, it's at max familiarity, which means all these special effects on this item have been boosted along with its attack. Now if we look further, we drill down further, items can also belong to sets. If you look there, the leader of the 10 Braves, that is a set. And sets come with specific bonuses based obviously on the number of pieces you wear. And again, sets in Nioh are very similar to sets in ARPGs. That they're designed around a specific build or a specific style, and then will elevate them. So this is going to be for those kinds of attacks, for using tonfas, and providing bonuses along those lines. Now, we also have our ranged weapons there. And here's our equipment. And equipment in Nioh is built around weight. It works like this. You have 3 weight settings. Basically quick, or we should say low, medium, and high. Low weight is having a percentage, if you look at the top there, lower than 30%. Medium is going to be above 30%. And then heavy is, I believe, 50% and higher. What that does is it determines how much ki is used for attack and dashes, as well as the speed of your dash. If anyone's played Dark Souls, you know about the infamous fat rolling. And that's what happens at heavyweight in Nioh. And once again, we have random and set special effects tied to each one of our pieces. Now, as I said, you may be noticing that special effects also have rarities. And that is a big point. Because the real money sink, and actually resource sink in Nioh, is trying to get the right special effects on your gear. Because this can mean a huge deal, including increasing your damage, getting you better resistances, or even allow you to use more items than you would normally. So, how do you get that? Well, let me introduce you to the blacksmith. The blacksmith's job is to both craft items that we can use, as well as enhance ones we've already gotten. Now, as I said a minute ago, one of the ways to improve your items is to basically transfer special effects. This is what soul matching is used for, but it also has a secondary purpose. Divine gear can be improved via modifiers. If you look at the top there next to the level, you'll see a plus sign and a number. That's basically an overcharge of the item's power. So we come back over here, you can see this is plus 12, which is really high up, at least where I'm at in the game. So if I want to improve that further, I need to soul match something that is equal in that plus or higher. Now, some of the systems don't seem to work all that well, I've noticed, or they're not really explained. For instance, I'm trying to soul match this to get a very specific modifier. This one right here, close combat damage. And it's not coming through. And I'm not sure why that is, to be honest with you. Because the familiarity is up. The only thing I can think of, which I think I may have just solved the answer, maybe, is that heavy attack. So, this is where the sync comes into play, folks. Reforging allows you to spend resources and money to replace modifiers. And you never know what you're going to get, both in terms of the special effect or the rarity. But in just about 9 out of 10 cases, or actually pretty much 10 out of 10, the higher the quality or the higher the rarity is going to be better. You really don't want gray tier special effects on any of your high level items. So we just rolled a blue. Now I want to see if my little theory worked. I don't think it did, but maybe we'll get lucky in a special occurrence. Well, what do you know? I was right. How's that for fun? Basically, as a thing that the game doesn't tell you, special effects belong to certain categories, such as elemental, close combat damage, life drain, stuff like that. and you can only have one of each respective category on your weapon. So I can't put fire and water on these tonfas. It won't work. But if I replace fire, then there's a chance I could roll another one. So I'm going to do this real quick because close combat damage is a really effective one. So let's do that. But if we come back over here, there we go. Like, there are some really good ones, including just pure life drain based on my attacks. That's one I would really like. And we can adjust things even further. But of course, we need to have resources and money to do so. So to do that, we can disassemble gear that we're not using. And as a very important point, you can lock gear that you want to save by pressing like square there. It's very important to do that, folks, because you don't want to give up an item that has really good modifiers or one that you intend on breaking down. So just really fast, I'm just going to look through this. Yeah, there's nothing here that I really want. Like right here, this is a really good modifier. Quick attack life drain. That would be one I would be willing to roll on my mid-attack life drain. So let's see. What I'm going to do is anything that's below exotic, which is purple, I'm going to sell for money. And again, the same thing applies to our armor. So really fast. Another good thing about looking at the gear like this, it gives you an idea of what to expect in terms of special effects and what to look for. And as a quick example, I'm going to soul match these up to +3. And the cost for soul matching goes up based on the gear that you're using, as well as how high the modifier is. So this is a +2, and I'm going to give it a +3. And the cost isn't too bad. But again, just very quickly. I am trying to get a specific set, the Saratobi Shinobi apparel, in divine form. But that's all good. So now I'm going to come over here. I'm going to disassemble. Yeah, that's fine. And then same thing for my armor. And now comes everybody's favorite part. And yes, for those of you wondering, I will have to start putting or doing reforging on my armor. But it's more important to get the weapon you want first. Because weapon is going to be the clearest sign of having potential when you are fighting. So I'm going to come back over here really fast. So I want to get a better attack life drain. And this is going to get very expensive, boys and girls. So we don't have that. And there is no guarantee I'm going to get it either. It's not a bad bonus, but I want life drain. I'm going to run out of money before I run out of fragments, too. Low... No, we don't want low attack life drain. That is not good for me. Yep, and we're out of money. So, I will have to come back to that in the future. You can also level up various bonuses here. There's that. But as you can see, there is a lot that comes into getting the gear that you need to survive in Nioh. And let's see, is there anything else I can do really fast? So what I can do is, I have just a little bit more money. I want to do one more reforge. This time on my armor. That's a special one as well. Let's see. Then we'll probably only get one. And those are for PvP options. We don't really do PvP in Nioh all that much, at least what I do, so they don't bother me. Yeah. So I didn't get anything important there, but I would have to do massive rolls for it. And this takes us into the issues of Nioh, and how things become more and more punishing without becoming more and more interesting for the player. And we're going to talk about that in our next part. Alright, as I said at the start, Nioh is a really good action game, but it is not good when it comes to the ARPG design. Specifically, with how gear scales as you get higher in the game. Now, what we showed in terms of the mission earlier was on Way of the Strong difficulty. Let's consider that New Game Plus. When you beat the game on Normal or Way of the Samurai, up to this region, you unlock the next difficulty tier. In that tier is when Divine Gear starts to show up, and all the stats on enemies gets boosted. And to show you a quick case in point, here is the first mission, or the first real mission of the game on the normal difficulty. You can see a mission level of 5. Now, if we come over here to Way of the Demon, which is New Game Plus Plus, let me show you. It is now mission level 470. So things have certainly changed. And the problem that Nioh has is that it wants to have it both ways. It wants gear to matter and be a major part of your progression, but the gear doesn't do enough to justify its importance when you get to the higher difficulties. And we're going to show that off by running a mission on Way of the Demon. And there is a very, and I do mean very good chance I am going to die several times in this part, but let's see. Now, if you looked on the previous mission, you notice I took some damage from enemies. Those are common enemies. It was considered very respectable. On the higher difficulties, enemies can one or two shot you regardless of your gear. It's pretty much considered common knowledge in Nioh that defense doesn't matter. Because you will either have no choice but to heal immediately after the hit, or you're dead. And there's no other way to get around it. Now let me just quickly allocate my resource, or Amrita, that's the thing at the bottom right, because I have enough for a level up. So as you can see, by raising your stats on the left will affect your secondary attributes on the right, including equipment weight, your number of points there for additional upgrades, and so on. Another thing to keep in mind is that I am not going to be hurting these guys all that much this time. And over there is a Kappa, which is kind of like a rare creature. I am going to sneak up on him and see if we can get some decent gear. So everybody please be quiet, even though I know you're not watching this live. He's going to jump. I have to be careful because he will pop you. There we go. And he's been poisoned. Now, besides the harder challenge, the real reason you play at the higher difficulties is for greater gear. In the Way of the Demon, or I'm sorry, Way of the Strong, Divine Gear goes up to about, I think it's like 7, maybe 8. On Way of the Demon, we're up to 12, 13, and higher. But, of course, the danger goes up as well. And on Way of the Demon, something new gets introduced to make your life even more nightmarish. And you will see that at some point in this play. Take him out. And due to the high damage, it makes it very hard to create interesting builds in Nioh. For instance, there are some enemies in this game that have hyper armor based on their attacks, but there is no differentiation as to when attacks have hyper armor and which ones don't. And this can be literally fatal for you when you're playing at the higher settings. I just need to kill this guy, hopefully, very quickly. There we go. Alright, buddy. For instance, as another point about that difficulty, because things are so challenging at the higher settings, there are very established builds and sets that players like to use. There's a reason why a lot of the Reverends in the game make use of the, I think it's the Red Demon Armor set, and use specific Guardian Spirits, because the game is just too punishing to try and experiment. As I said in the last part about gear and weight, it is suicide to have heavy gear on the higher difficulty settings, because you will not be able to tank anything to survive. There should be someone right over here. Deal with him. Now, I haven't gotten hit yet, but that is just an eventuality here. And as with other games of this kind, I'll comment on that in a second, fighting multiple enemies at once is pretty much suicide. So if you just notice, that common enemy just did more than half of my total life in a single hit. And I am basically on curve at this point, so this is not like I'm under leveled or under stat. Come on, buddy, go down. Who sees me? Oh, you see me. Whereas I'm going to take an elixir now, because if he hits me at this point, it's probably a death. I can move. Oh, did we get the kill? Yeah, we got the kill. Now, we haven't ran into the example that I wanted yet, but it's going to happen soon. It's just, again, a matter of time on Way of the Demon. Jeez. You would think a bullet to the head would be a kill. Apparently not. There we go. And at this difficulty, you basically need to have your strategy established. Back up here. Alright. And back attacks will always do more damage. Alright, should be coming. I was hoping if I took a little bit of a detour, we would see what I was looking for. Ow. But no, so let's head back to the main path. Oop. I don't know what happened there. Alright, and we'll finish him with a punish. Alright, here we are. Again, I never know what's going to drop from these enemies, which is why I'm trying to pick up everything. Oh. Alright, break through. Come on, buddy. And once more should be the kill. Good. Well, as you've probably guessed by now, it is a whole lot more dangerous. Ah, perfect. You see that enemy with a red outline on them to my right? That is an elite enemy, and they become available on Way of the Demon. They have special modifiers that give them additional bonuses, and they are also a lot nastier to fight. I think this is going to be a job for a heavy gun. Oh, that didn't work. Probably tracked one of his friends. And I want to try and pull these guys out one at a time. You'll find that humanoid enemies can get very annoying with their blocks. Oh, don't get hit by that. Come on. It's actually really good we didn't bait all those guys over. I wonder if I can pop him. Apparently I need some higher caliber bullets. Blocking again. Alright. The elite saw me. So those effects underneath his health bar, those are the bonus modifiers. Wow. That guy just almost killed me again. And yes, even the yokai can have those bonuses as well. It's entirely random, too. Alright. Come on, buddy. But at this stage of the game, it is just so... You cannot make any mistakes. And in many cases, you may not even make a mistake, and you can still be killed very easily. Especially on the bosses. Humanoid enemies on Way of the Demon, and even just on Way of the Strong, can become very frustrating to fight. They'll gain access to their living weapon almost for the entire fight, which means that they basically have almost unlimited hyper armor to fight you. And at that point, it doesn't really become about strategy, it just becomes about following the pattern and knowing when to get the safe hits in. So there's a good chance that this guy taps me once, it will kill me. Well, let's see what happens. Oh. Trying to be really careful. There should be a knockout. And I stopped him before he could regenerate his ki. For this one, I'll activate my living weapon. Yeah, I gotta be very careful not to get hit. Alright, got all that lovely gear. But the higher difficulties, the gear is not scaling to the challenges that you're fighting. And you'll find that the only way you'll be able to basically be comparable to enemies with the gear you find is to be one difficult below. Like right now, if I play on Way of the Strong, which is New Game Plus, I can handle them pretty well. For the most part. Come on, buddy. And based on everything is 1 to 2 hits away from killing you, it really reduces any kind of potential strategies. Let's see how we did. Now, because we are on the higher difficulties, I can also enhance my Guardian Spirits, giving me just a tiny bit more. For instance, this guy gives me some life drain. Not a whole lot, but every little bit helps. Now, I'm sure we're going to run into a few more elites between now and the end of this level. And again, this is considered the first real mission in Nioh, following the tutorial. Oh, God. That guy is an elite. Well, that's not good for me at all. Oh, he's a ninja elite, too. That's pretty much like the worst possible situation for me. Oh, and look at that. One hit killed me. Gotta kill this guy. There's someone over there throwing bombs at me, so we need to deal with him first. Go. I have my Guardian Spirit back, too. I think I may just use it on him. Now, to help me, I also have these magic talismans. So what that one did was slow him down. Uh-oh. That was close. I should be able to kill him before he recovers. Good. Somebody is sniping me and I don't like it. Oh, and there's another elite. So this guy, his sword is Wind Elemental, which means he will hurt me even if I block. Really careful here. Can't let him get a single hit on me. Now, I have a few people, and I know I will get comments about this below, who have probably gone all the way to New Game Plus, because there is one even above this. And I'm curious, how did you do that? Did you use established sets, or did you try and create your own? And more importantly, I want to know who managed to make it to the highest difficulty using heavy armor. Based on being careful because the ceiling breaks. Or I guess I should say the floor does. Jeez, one hit. There we go. That should help out. And having all the difficulty be really about just stat overtuning is really a shame, because one of my favorite games, Ninja Gaiden Black by Team Ninja, the difficulty was more about introducing higher or more challenging enemy types instead of just stat increases. Let's see. He's fine. And again, there are multiple shortcuts all around for you to look for. So what I'm going to do right now, let's just ignore him. And go over here. Oh, almost fell. Now there's a weak ceiling right around here that I always fall into. So I'm going to do my damnedest to avoid it that time. Alright, who's it going to be now? Oh. Oh, he fell. And again, this is very bad to be fighting two enemies. Yeah, I'm not playing around. Now there's another shortcut right over here that will save me a lot of time if I do get killed. And the fact that I haven't died yet is actually very surprising. Now I'm about to do something that will probably get me killed. Let's see. Oh, no, I'm still here. Oh, that did it. Aww. But that's why I took that shortcut. Because now, we don't have to worry too much about running back to where we just came from. Again, that elite is dead, so we don't have to worry about him. Run straight through here. Alright, you. This is for killing me. There we go. And what I'm going to do is drop down over here. And I'm going to run all the way over here. Thank you, enemy sense. I want to open up this shortcut on the chance that the boss kills me. Oh. Now that is an elite yokai again. Oh. And again, he's basically one hit from killing me no matter what. Come on. So with this shortcut open, we can now just run straight to the boss, hopefully kill him on our first try, and then move back for our final thoughts on Nioh. See here, I'll put 1 point there, get myself a little bit more ki. Because no ki means no stamina. Now I'm just going to run my way over here. It doesn't matter if they see me or not. Then we'll fall in the water, and we're going to come to our boss. Hello, big guy. And yes, he has modifiers on him, and one hit will probably kill me. Yeah, I was right. We'll put on a debuff. Gotta be really careful. Oh god. And yes, that little backhand slap is fatal. That was close. If that ball would have hit me, it would have been game over. Woo. And again, I may have made that look easy, but you notice I was one hit from dying that entire fight. And that is pretty much how Nioh's bosses go. Ooh, sorry about that. That's basically how Nioh's bosses go at the highest difficulty. Armor doesn't matter, stats don't matter. They will just kill you if they ever come in contact. And many of the layer fights and bonus quests involve fighting multiple enemies, which just raises the difficulty infinitely higher than it was just one-on-one. But somehow I survived all that. And again, to the victor goes some very high-level gear. And I see a potential soul match right there. Let's see, anything new over here? And it's only +6. No. And at this point of the game, it's basically divine or bust. I cannot use any of this lower tier stuff. It just will not help me. And if you want to see how expensive soul matching gets, watch this. It's +12. And as you can see, that's going to go up. But it's going to make these more powerful, so let's do it. Again, what I'm going to do, and one more time before we go to our final thoughts, let's see if we get lucky, boys and girls. No. Close, but no cigar. And that's more for PvP, I think. No. No. And yes, you will go broke doing this. Come on, give me some luck for the recording. Aw, guess not. Let's see. Fortune costs, we can lower that. But yeah, I will have to spend a lot more to get my hands on that later on. And again, we can do more soul matching, more upgrades, and the like. And again, it's only offering marginal increases at this difficulty, because again, I am so close to dying no matter what we do. Maybe I can get through Way of the Demon? Possibly, but it's going to take a while and probably some dumb luck on some of the harder missions. But with that said, we're going to head back to the main menu, and I'm going to discuss some of my final thoughts on Nioh. When it comes to Nioh, this is a really hard game to examine and analyze, because a lot of the issues with Nioh's underlying design don't make themselves readily apparent. On the normal difficulty Way of the Samurai, you can really just mess around and beat the game no matter what your build or strategy is. But a good example of design, or good game design, dictates that you shouldn't become more restrictive as you get higher in difficulty. And that's what happens in Nioh. As things get harder in the game, it really limits your options. And like you saw in the last part, the amount of damage those enemies were doing, you were not going to survive that no matter what. It's just not possible to tank damage, even though the game tries to present that as an option with the heavy armor. And this means that a lot of builds become very repetitive. There are obviously optimum strategy and items to use that a lot of the extra players will make use of. And it's a shame because the basic system, essentially a faster pace, I guess you could say either a faster pace Ninja Gaiden, or I'm sorry, faster pace Bloodborne, or a little slightly slower Ninja Gaiden, is really great. And this is another example again of how ARPG design, especially with loot, modifiers, and gear upgrades, is a very powerful progression model. The ARPG feedback loop has become a standard for a reason, but it has to be balanced and weighted to the rest of your game. And in Nioh, it just doesn't do that. The armor that I'm wearing now, I'm only really using it for the set bonuses. It's not providing with any real defense. This isn't an ARPG where if I'm in trouble in a section, I can go wear, plus fire resist, or plus ice resist, or anything like that. there's just no buffer for you for defense, and developers constantly break the rule that if your combat system is designed for one-on-one fights, you don't throw players into arena battles with 5 or 6. That works with Ninja Gaiden or even something like Bayonetta because the characters are agile enough to get into those fights. But in a game like Nioh, Bloodborne, and the like, it doesn't work along those lines because your combat is too methodical in its approach. And you didn't see this, but there is no friendly fire for enemies. So enemies will most often attack through each other, hitting you and getting the kill that way. There's also been some cases of very wonky hurt boxes on enemy attacks, including AoE skills, or when an enemy is just like flailing his weapon around. It can still hit you, and again, on the higher difficulties, that random, flick of a sword or whatever will probably kill you as well. But that's the thing. If I would love to see Team Ninja iterate on this design because despite these issues, it is still a really solid foundation for the first game. Definitely a lot more balance than what we saw with the original Demon Souls and their jump from demons to dark. If they do a sequel or spiritual sequel, I would honestly suggest removing equipment weight, making it more like Bloodborne where the gear provides bonuses, but it's not going to slow you down. Because if the whole point of your game is about high-speed movement and avoiding damage, having gear that explicitly slows you down is a false choice, because you never want to use that. But let me know what you think in the comments below, especially again depending upon where you're at in Nioh. Whether you just started the game, you're almost done the normal difficulty, or if you're one of those people, I think I have a few fans who have made it all the way to the 4th difficulty level, New Game Plus Plus Plus, which I think may unlock an additional gear type at that point. But please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below. But otherwise, thank you for watching this week's Dissecting Design. Be sure to check back for daily discussions on game design here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. New Dissecting Design pieces go up each Monday. But that's all for me from now, so thanks again for watching, and I will see you all next time. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Check back around 10 Eastern for regular streaming. If you'd like to suggest games for me to cover or topics to talk about, let me know in the comments below. For a collection of my writings as well as weekly podcasts on design, check out game-wisdom.com. To support the Game Wisdom Patreon, you can find us on there on patreon.com/gwbicer. $1 will get you into our private Discord channel where we talk game topics and more. $5 will get you voting privileges for any major event, including the Saturday Night Grab Bag, Patreon-funded goals, and more. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you enjoy more videos here on the Game Wisdom YouTube channel.